Accommodation show. I am super pumped to introduce Tracey Northcott to the show. Tracey Northcott, we met on Clubhouse roughly around about 3-4 months ago. I'm incredibly drawn to you because of your enthusiasm, but not only that, I love your story and I love what you do, and I think today you'll add a huge amount of value to everybody that's listening. So welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bart. It's such a pleasure to be here. It's really good that we've managed to get our schedules linked up.
I think the cool thing is that you are a fellow Aussie, but you are in Japan, so you are in Tokyo. I think that you're quite unique in that way, that there's not many people that are doing accommodation in that way. So from coming from Australia to there, actually, that's a good first question. How many people are there doing what you're doing that you know of in Japan?
There's a number. I started doing this business 10 years ago as by accident, and it was introduced to me by a French guy as a way to rent out a room, and it seemed to be the first people who got into it were the English speakers or the non-Japanese, so long-term residents like myself, and who were obviously a little bit looking for opportunities and also not afraid of new technology. And so I come from a tech background, and a lot of the other people in the space started off coming from a tech background and being non-Japanese. And then after it started to take off, it sort of trickled then into more of Japanese hosts getting into it. And I started helping them as well, because it was like, who are all these foreigners coming to Japan? So at first, the foreigners here were able to look after the big wave of tourists that were coming through, and we sort of understood what it was like to be, lost in translation. Like fresh off the boat in a different country, not speaking the language. So we were able to be that bridge very early on to help make a smooth transition and a soft landing for people coming into Japan for the first time.
Wow. Okay, so if we rewind a little bit,
Sure.
So you live in Tokyo, you live in Japan, you
Correct.
do short-term rentals, so that might be direct bookings, Airbnb, Booking.com, and the rest. We might talk about platforms and what you're on at some stage. You've been doing it for some time now. Your main demographics are English speakers that you're hiring or renting your place out to. Tell me a bit about how that part of your business looks, and fill in the gaps that I got wrong.
Sure. I mean, Japanese people culturally are quite, going to other people's houses, staying in other people's houses is not something that's been traditionally part of the, part of the landscape here. Hotels, onsen hotels, ryokans, minshukus, that like little not Airbnbs, but B&Bs don't have a massive amount of popularity traditionally, because there's a lot of onsen hotels or hotels in the countryside that people tend to go to. And also Japanese people are really, really shy. So the thought of having a stranger come into your house in that model was just like completely unheard of. Homestay is different. So there was people coming in, like students coming in to doing homestay. That was fairly popular, and that is quite popular. But someone renting out and making a business out of your own home was not really common. So
when you say a homestay, so we're talking a student traveling from a Western country to Japan and staying with a Japanese host family.
Yeah, think Rotary, think those exchange student type things. So that was that is a fairly popular notion, and the people that got into short-term rentals initially have sort of come from that area, so they're used to dealing with foreign people. Japanese people are very, very shy, and also they're very nervous about their English ability, and they don't want to do the wrong thing. They would probably, yes, Japanese service is amazing, but if if you've come up against someone who's really unsure about their English, they'll be really standoffish. So it doesn't really lend itself to the traditional idea of travel here. That's improving, and it certainly has been improving since the pandemic. But it hasn't had the domestic acceptance that has been in other countries, and that's for a lot of different reasons. So primarily until the pandemic, 99.9% of my business was inbound tourists. At first they were coming in from Western countries, Australia, Europe, America, and then the borders opened a little bit more with Southeast Asia, China, and of course, everyone knows how much Chinese tourism has taken off, and Japan being so close, and also being a big shopping destination has led to a very, very big boom in the Chinese tourists coming through and Korean tourists coming through. So up until the pandemic, it was all inbound tourists. And in different times of the year was different countries. So over Christmas, New Year, it was all the Aussies coming up to go skiing. During summer, it was all the Europeans who get 6 weeks, 8 weeks paid leave. So a lot of Europeans coming for the summer. Chinese New Year, of course, all the Chinese coming. So really, it's very cyclical, and after doing it for so many years, I could really track the inbound history, and also change my prices accordingly to make sure that I was capturing my peak times. So yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so just to give everyone a bit of an idea, so you've got a bunch of properties under your belt. Your brand is Tokyo Family Stays.
Correct, yes.
And so that's kind of the niche. And today what we're going to be talking about is branding and three sort of main facets of branding, which I'm not going to take away from you talking about them. But I think that the great thing is that you have a hat on that nobody else in the world, or very few people in the world, have. So you'll be able to give insights and give people real deep analysis on avatars and deep analysis on why brand is so important, what you can do with it when you are not dealing with a traditional model. So should we go into it? Should we start talking about the branding side of things?
Sure. I learnt by absolute accident. I started off with the OTAs and running that way, and really just accepting anybody with a credit card. And over time, and building up the number of properties that I had, I was really able to drill down into who was my ideal client, and why that was. So obviously these are the people that are paying me the most money, that were giving me the most amount of revenue for the least amount of work, but also the ones that were really resonating with the sort of service that I was offering. And so that was like the X factor, really, that was very unexpected. Of course, I got into this, to make money, but really, the joy that came from serving people who really appreciated what I was doing was the X factor that's just kept me going, and also kept us growing and moving our business forward. So looking at who we were serving, and when we really identified our ideal guest, that's when our business just took off like a rocket. So where I figured out where my ideal guest was hanging out was where I could go and market to them, and also speak directly to them. So make a real relationship, and make a connection, and that's where I feel that the beauty of the sharing economy comes in, is because you are making real relationships with people who come back again and again, who really appreciate what you do, and also tell their friends. I mean, of course, the money is fantastic, but that's not really our why. That's not why we're doing it. It's that we really do feel like we are showing our guests what it's like to live in Japan as a non-Japanese person. And the people who want that experience really appreciate it. And we're not then talking about price, we're talking about a complete experience. We're talking about a complete brand. And, you know, what I do in my other when I'm wearing my other hat is actually break that down into pieces so that you can figure out what your brand is for you. Because my brand is different to what your brand is. It's what different to other people's brand is. Because there's kind of three main elements to a brand, and that's going to be different for everybody. And that's again what makes this business so interesting, is that there is no one way to do it. You can really create a business that suits your lifestyle and your values, and make something that's that you're proud of. We sleep well at night because we know that what we're doing is actually making a difference. I think it gets this little cheesy or whatever, but yeah, when we sort of reflect on that a little bit, it's like, yeah, we're doing a good job. People like what we're doing and show their appreciation.
Sure. So you touched on the brand being made up of three main elements just then. Mm-hmm. What would those three elements be?
So there's where I see it, how I break it down is that, there's you as the host, and your values, and also your skill set, your unique experience. So that's one element. There's your listing. So whether that's a listing that you want to build or a listing that you already have, and that brings into how big is that listing? What type of property is it? Where are you located? So a brand where you've got a tiny house next to a lake is going to be very different from an urban condo next to a university. So they're all different. It's like you think, well, I'm just selling a bed. Well, you're not, because that bed is going to be in a different location. So that plays into the brand. And then there's also who you're serving. So who is your ideal guest? So all of those three things combine into like the sweet spot of your brand. And I can give some case studies to, so it's not so academic, and bring it into sort of some real world examples. I'll talk about my own, and then I can go into some other examples if you like. So for myself, there's me. My experience of being a foreigner living in Tokyo, and I've got a family, I've got a small child, I have grandparents that come visit, so that's kind of what I know quite well. There's my listings, which are single family homes. They suit extended family groups. And then there's my ideal guest, who are those single family, like those extended family groups. And that's how I created the Tokyo Family Stays. So who I serve, where I am, what I do is baked right into the name of my business. And that then follows through to who I market to, how I talk about my business, and also how I approach my ideal guest. So of course what that is for my business looks very different from, say, some of my clients who are, let's say, executives who live in a penthouse in Manhattan, for example. The people that they serve, the price point that they have, is going to be very different from, say, someone who runs a tiny house on a lake, and the experience that comes with that. So thinking that you just run an Airbnb, you just run a short-term rental, is that's how it used to be. But for successful, sustainable businesses moving forward, really having a clarity on your brand is going to make all the difference for a sustainable and profitable business.
So what we're saying is that you can, as a host, as you said before, you're baking in yourself, kind of your own personality, your own capabilities. The fact that you speak Japanese, and you can probably add a value-added service to people and say, hey, actually I understand this marketplace better than anyone else. So you're bringing part of you into it, and I guess in a way you're putting yourself into that brand. Is it absolutely necessary for you to be part of the brand when you're doing short-term rentals, or is that once again something that it just depends on who your target market is?
Absolutely. You could have an avatar of yourself, for example. And I know people who are doing that. There are some hosts that don't want to have that personal connection. They're wanting to either build a luxury brand where they have a concierge that is the face of the business. There are also some people who are remote and they want to let the features of their property be the star of the show, and that's totally fine. There's no one real perfect way to run the business. It's only what's perfect for you and your situation. People like coming to talk to us because we've lived the life here and we can answer all people's curiosity questions. But I work with other people who never even meet their guests, and that's totally a valid business proposition as well.
But I guess the other side of that, so you don't have to do it, but there are huge advantages in terms of price point, in terms of service offering. You're offering something that your competitors where it might be impossible for your competitor to replicate what you've actually got, because they can't be you no matter what. They might have different elements and different facets, but you can just go, oh, actually, like I said, the fact that I speak Japanese, the fact that I'm interested in mountain biking or kayaking or skiing or whatever those things are, we can then build those into the brand to then offer a more premium experience. I see so many people food blogging kind of stuff, I know the best restaurants, I know the best wine and all that, and you don't have to be everything, but you can start to solidify a point of difference in your product. Am I going down the right path?
No, absolutely, and it really does come down to as well where you are, and the unique features of your listing, for some people they're hosting in their homes, and so of course they are an integral part of their brand, and for other people they're completely remote, and or they want to be running like I said, a concierge service where somebody is, being like a on-site butler, for example. I mean, there's really so many different ways you can do it, and when you focus on the value that you're bringing to the market and focus to the value that you're bringing your ideal guests, you're not really then competing on price. You're showing that you have unique features, and then people are choosing you based on what the value that you're offering rather than how much you're charging. And that's where I think as well you get the best guests as well. I mean, if you get people coming in and they're just wanting to bargain hunt, then maybe if you're not a bargain basement listing, then they're not your ideal guest, and it makes it very clear as a host who you should and shouldn't be hosting as well.
Okay, so if I wanted to unpack this a little bit and really understand how to convey the uniqueness of myself to people, I think that hosts can quite often struggle with this. And I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. I know of a host who's very keen on making their own breads for their guests and really having that personal connection. They're doing it as a lifestyle business that they want people to share in sort of all their good fortune of having this beautiful property and being able to share it with people on that sort of the B&B space. But I find that there's always a disconnect from actually selling that message or informing people that's what it's going to be like before they get there. So once they're there, people are like, oh, wow, this is amazing. They're blown away. But before that happens, there's this kind of disconnect of communicating that we are a bit different. We do care about you a bit more, and you are going to get this kind of level of care, whatever it might be. Do you have any ideas or strategies around that communication piece?
Definitely. I spend a lot of time with this with my clients. So one of the first things I do is create that ideal guest avatar. So sit down and really get granular about who it is that is your ideal guest. And, you know, of course, this person is, it could be a real person that you've hosted before and that you've had a big connection with, or it's someone that you imagine that is your ideal guest. And then you create a full persona. Now, this is like an exercise when you're working on your business rather than in it. So you have to, it's the mindset stuff that you do before you actually put pen to paper. And so you really construct your ideal buyer, your ideal guest. This is a very standard marketing technique. So I'm not reinventing the wheel here. This has been, you know, proven over the years, time and time again. So, but with the short-term rental, actually putting a face. So that's, you know, creating you know, even if you want to do a vision board, if you're visual that way, or just really having an idea of who you're speaking to. I like to create that person, print off a picture and stick them on the wall. So put that picture on the wall, and I've got all the details. How many people are in the family, what their level of income is, all the details about that particular person that I'm speaking to. And then when I'm writing the copy and then I'm designing the product, and my product being not cheap accommodation, my product is the full guest experience. I start writing to that person as if I'm having a conversation with them. So I'm writing to them, I'm talking about their product problems, their pain points, what they're experiencing, rather than just listing out a whole bunch of my things. You know, I do this and I do this and I do this. Start talking about them. You will, look at this deck overlooking the Blue Mountains, for example. Imagine yourself sitting there having a coffee in the morning with the kookaburras, you know, waking you up, for example. Set a scene. Do your copy like that, and that's the way that you can really communicate what people are going to feel like when they're there. And then your ideal guest, when they read that, they will immediately identify and see themselves in that property. And then that that's the best way to convert them, because they're already there. They've already made that mental shift about, okay, well, this is what it's going to be like while I'm in the property, and this is how I'm going to feel when I'm there, and I want that. So trying to appeal to everybody means that, you know, if someone's reading your website and they're not your ideal guest, well, they don't actually feel like, oh, are you talking to me? Are you not talking to me? You've got to make your ideal guest recognize that they're in the right spot before they even book. And that's by writing down what the guest experience is going to be and how they're going to feel.
And I think that the top tip from what you've just said is to avoid the I's and the we's, and to start using the you, and that's in any kind of sales copy that you're ever
Yes.
going to do. The placement idea is brilliant as well, because I'm going to digress into a little bit of a story, but I used to sell blenders, and they were like $1,000 each, so super expensive. We'll get to the end of our pitches, and we come to the point where you want them to give you their credit card number so you can make the sale. And a really great coach of mine, he turned around and he said, look, you've got 3 or 4 different colors that you can deal with. So when you're talking to them, just say, hey, which color do you think would match your kitchen? And it was incredible to watch people's faces just completely change. All of a sudden, the conversation of, you know, the features and the benefits of the blender just changed to, oh yeah, all right, so my kitchen, actually the black one would be the best because of blah, and the conversation just completely changes onto the color and how it's going to fit in with their kitchen, rather than all the other practicalities of it. So placing someone in a spot is incredibly powerful. Doing it through imagery, through copy as well, is such a powerful thing to do.
It is a skill, and you know, and I encourage people, if this is not your zone of genius, that's okay. There are people that you can hire for that. But the first thing that you have to do as a host is really do that mindset work and think about, well, what is my product? Who am I serving? And then you can send a brief to a professional copywriter, and they can do that heavy lifting for you. Because basically your marketing, your photos, your photos, your captions, your copy really should be doing that marketing heavy lifting for you, and obviously represent the sort of service that you're going to be offering, and really paint a picture before guests get there. So
beautiful. So if we go back and we start to recap the whole branding thing, so we talked about location. So obviously you're trying to feature the best benefits of the location rather than its features, which you're going to then feed into the avatar that you've created, and that you kind of figure out is who are the guests that will be staying with me and what do they look like, and all their demographics and key stats. And then lastly, the important part is to really understand who you are as a host, not only on a host level, but also your own capabilities. So, are you going to be getting up at 11 o'clock at night to let someone in because they come late or not, or the door's going to be automated, and all this kind of stuff around your own lifestyle as well. So is that a good recap of the things you want to be looking at with your brand?
sure. The other thing as well is to put your ego in your pocket a little bit, because remembering that your house or your property isn't necessarily the final destination, isn't necessarily why someone's coming to the area. So figuring out why people are coming, what they're going to need or what they're wanting, and providing that for them is going to, make the sale. You might have the best 3-bedroom house and it's gorgeous and it's fabulous, but if someone doesn't need to come to your area, they're not going to need to buy from you. So focus on why people are coming, and then let your place be the solution for the needs of that ideal guest. So again, I've got fabulous houses, but if you're not coming to Tokyo, then you're not going to be buying. So what I do is I try to figure out, well, who's coming to Tokyo, why are they coming to Tokyo, what are they going to need when they get here, and then I show them that I'm going to be the solution to their problems.
Yeah, great, I love that. Look, I like to keep these sessions quite short, because I find that I think there's just so many bombs that we've delivered throughout this session that it's worth people to take those away and put them in and implement them, rather than us waffling for ages about more and more ideas, because we could talk about anything. So just if someone can get some of those takeaways and go and say, all right, and review what they've already got on their listings, review what they're doing, and review whether it all makes sense. Review their avatars and be cognizant of the fact that their avatar is changing. And Tracey, we talked about this, that the avatar of your guest is changing, and right now you're kind of hoping that it's going to go a certain way, but because of the pandemic, there's a little bit of play still. You don't know 100% what's going to happen next. So we're doing some work together to help kind of future-proof that, just in case things start to change. You've got more avenues to communicate with your customers. So it's fascinating stuff. Do you have anything else that you want people to take away from this session?
Focus on remembering that the sort of experience and the skills that you've got, you might not think that they're actually of any value, but your local knowledge and your experience is actually very, very valuable to someone coming into your area. So, a lot of people try to be modest and downplay their skills, but the things that you hold as just as life experience is actually really valuable. So reward yourself for that, and make sure that you're charging what you're worth, because the value that you're bringing people who are coming to your area is more than you think that is more than you think that you should be charging. You should be charging. So I'm a big advocate in helping people get paid what they're worth. Particularly
if you find a way of differentiating yourself. It can really pay off dividends. Beautiful. So, look, I know that you're doing a lot of work to try to help people with their businesses. The one thing that I've noticed about some of the courses and some of the things that you're doing, and even the way that you're marketing yourself, is that you're looking for people that are looking to share their journey with you. You're not looking just to sell a course and say, hey, do this and that. I think you're actually looking for genuine connections with people that you can work with to try to make them, to understand them a bit better, try to work with them. Now, you've got some great courses, some good stuff going on. How can we support you and be of service to you?
Well, I write a blog, and I'd love people to come read my blog's all free, and I'd love to tell people stories. I'm a bit of a short-term rental nerd. I could talk about things all day. I really love it when people sort of say, "Hey, Trace, let's have a virtual coffee." So please, you can find me. I'm not a woman of mystery. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on my blog, and I think you'll probably have some of these notes in the show notes here. Please come talk to me. But the biggest thing you can do is take some action. That and tell me about it so that I can be your biggest cheerleader. So of course I love helping people find extra money in their listing by really leveraging their brand. I'd love to work with people, but as well I love to sing your praises. So that's how you can support me.
Beautiful. And look, I love it that even though you are in Japan, you are the Aussie community with us. So I know that you're going to be hanging around an awful lot with us and chatting to us, and we'll see you on the clubhouses and everywhere else. So definitely, everyone that's listening, make sure that you jump onto Instagram and follow Tracey. Jump onto LinkedIn as well. I think that you're on there. Jumped onto your LinkedIn website. We'll put it all in the show notes as well, so everyone can find you as well. Thank you so much for joining us and taking your time to help us and to educate everybody and share your experiences. It's really fascinating and very insightful as well.
Thanks, Bart. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Look, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you around soon.
Okay, take care.
Thanks.